Here is a lecture recap from Thursday, April 6th. The main focus of this lecture was the anatomy of the system involved in gas exchange. Starting at the hindbrain, the prebot C neurons signals for breaths to be taken every 16 to 20 minutes. This is done by triggering an action potential that is sent to the motor neuron 12 to 16 times per minute. This motor neuron is the hypoglossal. From there, the action potentials are sent to the spinal cord, where the message can then be relayed to the lungs. In the cervical region of the spine is the phrenic nerve. This nerve triggers the contraction of the diaphragm. In the thoracic region is the intercostal nerve. And this nerve triggers the contraction of the intercostal muscles. Both of these contractions result in breathtaking. Moving into the anatomy of how the gas begins its way into our bodies. Once we inhale the gases, they enter our trachea. Once down the trachea, it will branch into either lung via the right main bronchus or the left main bronchus. Deeper into the lungs is where the gas exchange occurs. Starting with the trachea again. It moves into the lungs, reaching the primary bronchi first. It'll then continue down through many of these smaller bronchi. It's at this point that the cartilage here that was present around the trachea, keeping it open, starts to disappear. The final branches the air must travel through are the bronchioles. These are surrounded by smooth muscles that are easy to influence if needed medically. Gas exchange hasn't quite happened yet. It'll then move into the alveoli, which is where the gas exchange will occur. Each alveolus, which is just one of these little bunches off of the bunches of alveoli. Each of these are made up of a single layer of squamous cells. These squamous cells will allow for the oxygen and CO2 to pass through easily. There is also a membrane of aqueous fluid that will keep these squamous cells from drying out and dying. The capillary beds lay directly on these alveoli in order to exchange the gases in the blood. pulmonary artery will bring blood to the lungs with a concentration roughly of 40 millimeter mercury of O2 and 46 millimeter mercury of CO2. In the lungs already is 100 millimeter mercury of O2 and 40 millimeter mercury of CO2. Once the blood enters the capillary beds, the CO2 will flow into the lungs and the O2 will flow into the blood due to the concentration differences. The blood will then return to the heart via the pulmonary veins, and that concludes the gas exchange between the lungs and blood.